Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah. Adada khalqihi wa rida nafsihi wa zinata arshihi wa midad kalimatihi wa muntaha ilmihi wa jami'a ma sha'a wa khalaqa wa dara wa bara. Alim al-ghayb wa shahadatu rahman al-rahim al-malik al-qudus al-aziz al-hakim. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah. Lahul mulk wa lahul hamd, yuhyi wa yumeet, biyadihi al-khayr wa huwa ala kulli shay'in qadir. Wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Arsalahu bil huda wa dinil haqq liyudhhirahu ala dini kullihi walau kariha al-mushrikun. Amma ba'd. فيقول الله تعالى في كتابه إن عدة الشهور عند الله 12 شهرا في كتاب الله يوم خلق السماوات والأرض منها أربعة هرم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا أوصيكم بتقوى الله عز وجل. Alhamdulillah, after praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, sending peace and blessings upon his beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and his family and his companions, we mentioned a verse from Surah Tawbah, verse number 36. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, surely the months with Allah are 12 in the book of Allah since the day He created the heavens and the earth, and 4 of them are sacred. The number, the count of months with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is 12, and it's been like that in the book of Allah since He created the heavens and the earth, and 4 of them are sacred. 4 of them are sacred. Brothers and sisters, we're in one of those sacred months. If this wasn't Yawmul Jumu'ah, and I asked you, and you were able to respond to me, to name the 4 sacred months, I am pretty sure that many of us may not know them. And we should know them. We should be plugged in. We should be in tune with the time. So I'm going to tell you the 4 sacred months that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alludes to in this verse. The first of them is Muharram. Muharram is the first month on the Islamic calendar. That's the first sacred month, at least in order of the months. The second sacred month is the month of Rajab, which is the 7th month on the Islamic calendar. The second or the third of the sacred months is Dhul Qa'dah, which is the 11th month. And the 4th of the sacred months is the month that we're in right now, Dhul Hijjah. The easy way to remember is that 3 of these months go back to back. Month number 11, 12, and 1. Right? Dhul Qa'dah, Dhul Hijjah, and Muharram. They're back to back. Rajab is the only month that is separated. It's the 7th month. So, month number 7, 11, 12, and 1. Those are the 4 sacred months. I'm pretty sure many of you thought Ramadan was one of the sacred months. But this is not what is being referred to here in this verse. Ramadan is a blessed month, but it's not one of the 4 sacred months. And brothers and sisters, we cannot afford to be oblivious, not knowing what's going on, not knowing what time it is. Time is everything. And of this sacred month, the first 10 days of it are extremely blessed. And there are many hadith narrations that highlight this. There's one narration related or narrated on the authority of Ibn Abbas, Abdullah ibn Abbas, radiallahu ta'ala anhu, where he reports that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that there are no good days in which good deeds are more rewardable than these days. And he was talking about the 10 days, the first 10 days of Dhul Hijjah, the month that we're in now. This is day number 5 of the first 10 days of Dhul Hijjah. There are no days in which good deeds are rewarded more than these days. First 10 days of Dhul Hijjah. And in this narration, the Sahaba said, not even jihad fi sabilillah, fighting in the way of Allah. He said, not even jihad, fighting in the way of Allah. Except the one who does jihad in the way of Allah, leaves his home with himself and his wealth, and doesn't come back with anything. That's the only exception. But jihad, fighting, it's a serious thing. Even if you take Islam out of it, like now we live during the age of keyboard or thumb gangsters. What's a keyboard? What's a thumb gangster? A keyboard or a thumb gangster is someone who's on social media and he talks like he can kill you if he sees you. As soon as he pulls up on you, he starts shaking and crying and apologizing. It's a keyboard gangster. When you go out, it's a different thing, even before social media. You have those guys who, when everything's peaceful, yeah. As soon as we see them, it's on. I'm going to be the first one to set it off. And then as soon as it's actually time, either he's always conveniently absent, or he's the first one to run. And he probably, in his own mind, thought that he can be man enough to fight. But when it actually happened, he swallowed his heart and he left. So this is the street negative stuff. And I'm saying that just to get you to think, because these are just some abstract concepts to most of us. We're talking about not just some street brawl. We're talking about putting your life on the line for the sake of Allah, not for the sake of money, not for the sake of I can get a house when I come back home, or I'm going to go out, but I hope I don't get in combat so I can come back and get free college education. No, going out hoping to die or hoping to be victorious, in that order. Jihad fi sabilillah. Remember what we're talking about here. But yet the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, there are no 10 days in which actions, deeds are more rewardable than these 10 days that we're in right now, Dhul Hijjah. And once again, in this narration, he was asked, not even jihad fi sabilillah? He said, not even jihad fi sabilillah. While I sit down, I want you, while you're supplicating, to think about the good deeds that you and I can do while we still have half of these 10 days left, while we still have five days or so left of these first 10 days of Dhul Hijjah. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين واستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم المالك القدوس العزيز الحكيم أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له له الملك وله الحمد يحيي ويميت بيده الخير وهو على كل شيء قدير الحمد لله رب العالمين وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ورضي الله تعالى عن السادة التابعين وعلماء العاملين وأئمة الأربعة المجتهدين ومقلدين إلى يوم الدين. يا إخوان أوصيكم بتقوى الله. Reminding us, reminding you, reminding myself to have fear of Allah. Fear Allah. And we cannot afford to be oblivious. What's oblivious? You in something and don't know what's going on. Heedless. A state of ghafla. You know, there's some of us, anything to do with politics, our fingers on the pulse. We know what's going on. We know who's getting elected, who's running for office, who's about to run for office, who's out of there, who's about to have a scandal against them. We know the ramifications if such and such gets in office, or if this law gets passed, and all of these things. And all of that is good. We need to know these things. Some of us, our fingers on the pulse of finances. We know the value of the dollar. We know which businesses are coming down the pike. We know how to start businesses. We know a good time to get into business. Like, now is not a good time. If I would have known about this 2 months ago, it might have been a good time to invest or to get into it. But there's too many people into it now. I won't really get that much money. There are some people that are good with these things. They know exactly when they get into it. Their fingers on the pulse when it comes to that money. And that's good. We need people like that. We have to be the people, on top of all of that and other things that I didn't mention, we have to be the type of people that we're not oblivious, we're not heedless. We have our finger on the pulse of barakah, blessings. We know when to get them. We know when the time comes around to get them. And that means you have to know what time it is. You have to know what time it is. That means you have to, that's one thing about being Muslim. We're always conscious of what time it is and where we're at. One thing, if you are not the type of Muslim that's not really cognizant of where you find yourself at, or what time of day, or what time of month, or what part of the year it's in, you got to step it up. Everything is about time. Everything. Everything, when you taste Islam, one of the things that's going to dawn on you is that so many things that we think are not related to it, but they are in fact connected to salat, prayer. And with prayer, you have to know what time it is. You can't pray a prayer outside of its time. That don't even count. You have to know what time it is. How are you going to know what time it is? You have to be aware of how the sun moves. You have to be aware of the length and direction of shadows. You have to know these things. You have to be aware of the direction in which the sun rises and sets. You have to be cognizant of all of these things. Jumu'ah, it's at a certain time. You can't pray Jumu'ah on Thursday or Saturday. You got to know what time it is. Zakat. pillars of Islam. Zakat. We don't really have that established in this country, but in some places, zakat is paid at a certain time of year. The way we in this country understand the IRS, okay, W-2s, 1099s coming out no later than the end of July. Normally got to pay by the middle of April or file by the middle of April. The way you understand that is the way you're supposed to understand zakat. Or if it's not done on a state government level, you have to know how long you had that wealth in your possession. You had it for a year, time to pay. You got to be paying attention to time. Ramadan. Fasting, the obligatory fast of Ramadan, has to be done inside of Ramadan. That's why the moon sighting is so important. You would think in 2021 that sighting the moon is an innovation in Islam, the way we act over here. But the fasting of the month of Ramadan is in Ramadan. You can't fast in Shawwal and Sha'ban and be expected to be rewarded for fasting the month of Ramadan. And you may say, okay, this is obvious, Aki, why would you even mention that? No, some of us are completely heedless. I experienced myself. I was living in another city, and I was riding the bus. And a brother, Muslim brother, got on the bus. He was like, Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Aki, alhamdulillah. Ramadan coming up soon, right? When did Ramadan start? I forgot the exact date, but it was almost the middle of Ramadan when he asked me that. There's a Muslim brother, Muslims all around him, and he's asking me when Ramadan starts in the middle of Ramadan. Completely heedless. Ashura. I mentioned those 4 sacred months. I mentioned the first month in the calendar is the month of Muharram. The 10th of that month is called the day of Ashura. There's a lot of blessings and rewards connected to fasting on that day. Eid al-Adha, Hajj, all of these things are connected with time. All of these things are connected with time. We can't afford to be oblivious. We have to know what time it is. We have to always know what time it is. We have to have our finger on the pulse of the Islamic calendar all of the time. This is why we have that little dry erase board over there by the camera. And every month we put the Islamic date, so you know what time it is. There are many blessings and rewards for doing different types of things in Islam. Allah puts blessings in certain time periods. We have to be aware of those things. We have to be like the person that knows about politics, that knows how to get money. We have to know how to get blessings. Because getting the blessings will increase and help our insight with politics. Getting the blessings will help and increase our barakah with the money that we have and every other aspect of our life. And in conclusion, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, Al-yawmu akmaltu lakum dinakum wa atmamtu alaykum ni'mati wa raditu lakum Islam adina. This day, today, when that verse was revealed, on the day of Arafat, during the Prophet ﷺ's farewell pilgrimage in Mecca, this day I have perfected your deen for you and completed my favor upon you, and have chosen Islam as your deen. Chosen for you Islam as your deen. We don't have time, but if I was to go into details about the significance of this verse, subhanallah. You watch these sci-fi movies, you know, oh, the planets are aligned, and this thing is going to happen, and that thing is going to happen. This cataclysmic event is going to happen, and the stars are aligned, and the prophecy says, and blah, 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 blah. This was that time, during the Prophet ﷺ's farewell pilgrimage. So we pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala remove us from the state of ghafla, heedlessness. We pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to get the reward of these blessed time periods. Like today, like these days, first 10 days of Dhul Hijjah. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم انت السلام ومنك السلام تبارك يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. إقامة الصلاة.
Allah